The Chaser Report is recorded on Gadigal land.
Striving for mediocrity in a world of excellence. This is the Chaser Report.
Hello and welcome to the Chaser Report with Dom and Charles.
And hot off the presses, or possibly Monday by the time you hear this, I'm not sure, we have the fastest to be compiled and the slowest to be released debate analysis ever, because we're ready to call the debate right now.
Yes.
20 minutes in. Charles, have you watched any of the debate?
I haven't watched any of the debate, but my dad just texted me telling me that he after 5 minutes decided to stop watching the debate because it was just too embarrassing to watch. And they're talking about Biden.
I texted Chaz 4 minutes into the debate
Yep.
before Donald Trump had opened his mouth and said Biden has already lost. He can't speak.
What?
That's the call. I've called the debate. I've called the election. I'm really sorry.
Trump's winning.
It's done.
It's Trump.
Unless Kamala Harris steps up for the second debate. Yeah, I'm afraid Great-Grandpa Joe, it's just not working.
But do you think this is all part of Biden's master strategy?
Let's find out in a moment. So, look, just to briefly recap what I heard, we're going to play 30 seconds of the opening of the debate.
Yeah.
You'll notice how, I think he's got the cold. He's either got a cold or COVID. Or he's 81.
He's 81.
I'm not sure which of the things it is. But you'll notice how he pauses for breath every 5 seconds and sounds not entirely with it. Have a listen to this.
We got to take a look at what I was left when I became president and what Mr. Trump left me. We had an economy that was in free fall. The pandemic was so badly handled. Many people were dying. All he said was, it's not that serious. Just inject a little bleach into your arm. You'll be all right. The economy collapsed. There were no jobs. Unemployment rate rose to 15%. It was terrible.
So that's what I based my call on, Charles. And then Donald Trump...
That's pretty bad.
Curiously enough... the whole thing about the rules, they're going to turn his microphone off when it's not his turn. He's not going to have an audience there. It'll keep him in his box.
Yeah.
Actually made him sound... I mean, the content made no sense, but he didn't sound absolutely like...
Well, he didn't sound like Biden.
No.
Yeah.
He sounded, of the two of them, if you ignore the content, which of course everyone would have, he sounded the most alive.
Yes. It's sort of like comparing, would you prefer to be in a room full of fart, or would you prefer to be in a room that has poo in it and it smells?
What an extraordinary analysis. I don't even know which is which.
But one just has the smell of it but no poo. One has the poo but is also stinky because it's got poo. You know what I mean?
No.
It's sort of you don't really want either.
It's like a lingering stench versus an active...
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you've got a person who we know makes terrible decisions and a person who I don't know is going to be able to make any decisions.
Okay, I'll come up with a better analysis. What about you offered a sort of mouldy off punnet of strawberries,
right,
or a mouldy off punnet of blueberries? Which one would you like? That's what
which is which?
Well, I'm just saying, this is the options that the...
It's a choice between two unpalatable options. Is that the point you're getting to?
Yeah.
I mean, this is the thing, right?
Okay,
compared to 4 years ago.
I'll just try one more.
Okay, try one more analogy, okay.
Okay. It's like being offered...
This is the best debate analysis going, by the way.
Do you want your iPhone screen to be cracked on the top half of the screen or on the bottom half of the screen?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean...
You don't want
neither.
You don't want either. Yeah.
The thing that's really challenging about this too is the difference between now and 4 years ago.
I'll just try one more metaphor.
4 years ago, Biden was basically completely with it. Didn't have all this shuffling and gait stuff going on that he has today.
Yeah.
Compared to State of the Union Biden, the whole thing about how he's going to take drugs and be he is not on anything.
He's not on the right drugs.
I mean, if it's anything, it's sedatives, to be honest.
I think maybe this is all a sort of drug legalisation pitch, isn't it? He's had too much weed.
We want State of the Union Biden.
No.
Oh, I see. So it's stoned Biden.
He's stoned. I think that's what's happened. He's had a bit of nerves, as you do before an important event, and so he's gone, well, it's legal nowadays. Might as well have some wacky tobacco. and it's been a misstep.
And I mean, to be fair, though, Donald Trump is so relatively subdued, and I'm saying this just based off the first beginning of the debate, because stupidly we booked our podcast recording time for 5 minutes into the debate and then decided to analyse the debate, which was a big call.
Yeah.
But
we don't, it's not a
it's
big
quite possible, Charles,
Yeah.
that Donald Trump is also stoned, because he was not shouting and frothing at the mouth.
call. Do you think they did a sort of Dutch oven style thing beforehand?
They
They just got in the Dutch oven together.
Jake Tapper just sort of lit up. And
That was probably one of the rules.
well, CNN is a liberal network, and we
Yeah.
know how much liberals like getting stoned.
Exactly. But I think that this might actually be a masterstroke by the Biden
Oh, yes, you did
campaign.
make that very big
Yes.
call at the start of the podcast.
Because I think the whole thing is you've got to reset expectations.
Sure.
Right. And this is why it's been so early. This is the earliest presidential debate ever in
Yeah.
the election cycle. It's
Yeah,
before the election candidates have even been decided, right?
Well, they haven't won their, they haven't been formally nominated at the convention. Well, you know why? Old men love going to bed early.
Go to bed early,
This
yeah.
is months early.
Yeah, but I think what Biden's whole team needs to do is they need to reset expectations. The normal expectation that an American voter will have is that their president is coherent.
He's awake.
Yeah. And by straight out of the gates going, no, this election, we're not offering you a product of a coherent president. We're offering you a bubbling wreck who really just needs to sort of
Just go to sleep, really.
go to sleep.
Yeah.
Therefore, they can then move forward with that expectation
to
reset.
reframe.
So the worst thing that they could do is Biden does really well in this debate, but that's not the product they're going to be selling for the next 6 months. It's going to be an incoherent mess. So by lowering expectations early, anytime Biden says even, say, a sentence that makes sense, everyone's going to go,
Oh, he's done well.
oh, he's on the mend.
Surprising voters.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean that's something that could happen.
Yep.
We've all visited Grandpa at one point in the
exactly.
past,
Yeah.
and it seemed like he needed a bit of a sleep,
Yes.
and he wasn't quite there that
Yes.
day.
And you feel sorry for people like that.
You do. It reminds you how fond you are. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe this tugs at the
Pity votes.
heartstrings of ordinary Americans who've had frail, elderly people who they were fond of in their lives.
Well, I've often said that the only reason Tony Abbott was a member for Warringah for so many years was the pity vote.
You think so?
Yeah, so it is possible to, you look at Tony Abbott and you go, oh God, poor wife. Imagine
and
having,
the daughters.
Yeah, and what will I do? Well, I'll vote for Tony Abbott so he doesn't have to be at home.
So he's
with the wife.
in Canberra.
Yeah, so
a
he's
lot.
in Canberra.
Remember
a
how?
lot,
Do you remember how when he was Prime Minister?
Yeah.
He went to live at the Federal Police Training College.
Yes.
That was a renovating lodge.
Yes.
I reckon he preferred it. I
Oh,
reckon
yeah,
The
yeah.
Spartan kind of seminary type education.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that's a good
I think-
hypothesis. That it's not about the content, it's about, Grandpa.
Yeah, it's the pity vote.
It's a pity vote.
Yeah.
Whereas Donald Trump, well, I mean, he's just always the same, right? You always get the same. He doesn't have good or bad days. He's on the same planet, whatever day it is.
Well, yeah, I think this is the wonderful thing about where Trump has sort of set his voters' expectations, which is that it doesn't matter whether what he says is true or false, whether it's good or bad, whether it's coherent or incoherent. The promise is that you've got to back him anyway. He's managed to do that wonderful white male thing of avoid all accountability for anything he says at all, ever.
I'm
Right.
just looking. Apparently, in the first 30 minutes, the one real time thing I can do is check Twitter. Apparently, in the first 30 minutes of the 90-minute debate, nobody mentioned the fact that one of them had just been convicted of 34 felonies. So, yeah,
Do you think Biden's forgotten?
I think he probably has forgotten. Oh my goodness. Yes, quite well. Unless he's saving it for the grand finale, but it may be quite hard to remember the number 34.
Yes,
And Charles, I also admire Biden for bucking against a trend, because I'm sure you've heard this whole thing of super ages, right? All these people who are in their 80s and 90s,
Yes.
and are just going on strong. Like Rupert Murdoch, by all accounts, at 93, is still full of vim and vigour. Donald Trump is able to do these incredibly long days, and admittedly has a bit of a sleep in the courtroom. But we're seeing, on the Supreme Court, all these people, they're ancient, and they just keep powering on, and they never get out of the way, and they certainly never sell their houses or move into retirement homes and, do something about housing affordability.
No, exactly.
But Joe Biden today looks every one of his 81 years.
You know what he's done?
What's he done?
He's quite quit. He's quite quit the presidency.
That's very good. There's the episode title, I think. And it was very sotto voce. It was Full was whispery, and there was a pause in between every little bit of the sentence.
And look, I was used to be all in favour of quiet quitting because I think, like if your employer is not, treating you well, it's fine to just sort of
keep getting your salary and just do less and less.
Soft pedal it at work. But when you're the president of the United States, like I'm reconsidering my support for quiet quitting because I kind of think it's a bit of a dick move, isn't it? On, democracy.
To your employer? Oh, as a president?
Yeah, as a president, to quiet quit the presidency.
Well...
and were there any other presidents in history who've quiet quit? Or is this the first president?
No, surely. I mean, second term of Reagan, not intentionally.
Yeah, he quiet quit.
I think his senses quiet quit him at that point. I mean, Clinton was he didn't quiet quit, but he spent a lot of time having to deal with the whole blowjob incident thing.
Yeah. But that wasn't quite.
No,
quitting.
it wasn't like this. No, Biden's. I mean,
I think he's the first. I think he's a groundbreaker. I think he's broken ground.
The Australian Constitution, Charles, has a rule that at the age of 70, High Court judges have to retire.
Yes,
and we don't praise the founding. I suppose they were probably all men. The people who drafted the Australian Constitution, they don't get the sort of praise that the American founders get. That was a good rule.
That rule was brought in 1986.
Was it?
That was part of the Australia Act.
The 70-year-old thing, was it really?
Yeah, that was part of the Australia Act.
Oh, that's very good, guys.
That was also
under the Hawke government.
Under the Hawke government, that was also the act that finally separated our judiciary from the British judiciary.
Yes, there were no more appeals to the Privy Council.
Yeah, because before 1986, if you really wanted to go, all the way to the High Court,
take it to London.
You would take it to London,
yeah.
And then the Privy Council is this weird body of lords.
I don't know if it even still exists, the Privy Council, in any meaningful sense. But
right. Okay.
I think they've even replaced it in the UK now with various Supreme Courts.
It's just to deal with colonial matters.
Does privy mean like toilet?
Yeah,
it does.
It's not like
they met in the King's toilet. Is that what that is?
Like the Privy Council, I don't think was like the highest court in Britain when it was the highest court in Australia. It was like a subset of lords who just went, oh yeah, we'll determine what goes in the colonies.
There is still a Privy Council. Look, I studied law for several years. I have absolutely no memory of any of this stuff, and I'm glad I quite quit that degree. So actually, my marks reflect that. Anyway, where are we? We're still analysing a debate that we haven't heard at all. But Charles, this isn't a good moment.
We don't need to. No, but I think
we've heard enough.
What we need to do is we need to now batten down the hatches and prepare for a Trump presidency.
Okay, let's just have an ad break and do that.
The Chaser Report. News a few days after it happens.
All right, hatches battened down. Donald Trump is president-elect at this point,
So I think we can assume that Project 2025 is full steam ahead.
For those who haven't heard what that is.
Yeah, this is
the revenge project.
Yeah. And
I am your retribution.
Yeah, and, day one, he's going to be a dictator is essentially the vibe of it.
Well, that's what he's explicitly said, yeah.
One of the fascinating things that he's planning to do is put large swathes of the public service, I think about 6 million people, onto a thing called Schedule F.
Schedule F?
Which
they'll call it getting effed, will they?
Yeah, and he actually came up with Schedule F right in the dying days of his presidency, and then Biden immediately reversed it back in 2021. One of the first things Biden did just before his nap for the day. Schedule F is basically making almost all public service employees in America hire or fireable at will by Donald Trump. They become presidential appointees. Now, America is one of the few places in the world where the president can get in and literally there's sort of at least 10,000 people he just directly hires.
Yeah.
Like they're not subject to the same scrutiny as normal public servants in that if they make a decision that displeases the president because, say, they're obeying a law or something like that, people who are direct appointments actually can just be fired by the president regardless, right? And so if that extended down to, say, all the Department of Justice employees and things like that, if they all suddenly came under this Schedule F idea, then any employee who's deciding, should I prosecute that friend of Donald Trump's based on the law, would suddenly be able to be completely removed, completely legally by Donald Trump, which is sort of dictatorship. It's sort of like, it's chilling. Like, it sounds very bureaucratic. It's absolutely ridiculously powerful.
Well, Charles, I mean, sure, if you're part of the deep state, if you're one of those hardcore Democrats that's prevented Donald Trump from doing what he wanted to do last time, sure, the writing's on the wall. You're toast, sucker.
Yeah.
That's all. I mean, the thing about the Trump administration last time is that so much of its impact was blunted by incompetence, and that's the thing. They have actually learned this time, and not. I don't remember who's running the whole thing for him, but he's got a whole team of people. Yes, getting ready to actually figure out how to get round all the guardrails that were there last time. It took him 4 years, and he didn't get round most of them. And he hired all these people like Rex Tillerson, who didn't necessarily go along with all the things that he wanted to do. I mean, he sort of quietly appalled a lot of his employees shortly into their tenures and had to sack them.
Yes.
But this time around, he'll get hardcore magaroids who will not in any way displease him.
Yes. And he's organised. Like, he's written it all down. He's going to do it.
In giant Sharpie.
Yeah.
Yeah, so look, apparently as the debate goes on, it is getting more heated and they're getting stuck into maybe Biden's awake at this point in the debate. I'm not sure. You'll have to watch it for yourself. But we do know. I think it's still time to call it for Trump.
You know how steroids take 20 minutes to kick in?
Yes, the roid rage.
Do you think maybe Biden timed his medication to be too close to the start time?
Could be.
And
maybe
it's only now just
Joe's
kicking in. The eckies are kicking in.
Well, I mean, this is the great thing. We didn't want to insult you, dear listener, by watching the debate, because we knew that this wouldn't come out till Monday.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to make sure that it was it wasn't a post-debate, because by Monday all the analysis will have been done. So we wanted to be the first with the analysis. Without having been informed.
Yeah.
So Charles, let me just record an alternate version.
I think this podcast is as coherent as Biden's election strategy at this point.
Okay, hang on. Let's just do an alternate version. Charles, today is the day that Joe Biden got re-elected as president of the United States. The Trump insurgency is over. He was masterful. Look, a bit of a slow start.
No, terrible.
But absolutely masterful from Biden.
Yes. Trump,
ran on his record.
So good.
Trump was a snivelling mess.
Oh, yes. And the way, that thing he did.
Yeah.
What a disaster.
I mean, Biden, can you cut the words in of the best part of Biden's speech here, Lachlan?
I've never heard so much malarkey in my whole life. And I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag. My son was not a loser, was not a sucker. You're the sucker. You're the loser. You have the morals of an alley cat.
Just brilliant stuff. Mr. President.
Oh, yes.
I salute you.
It's sort of the rhetorical skills of a JFK or an Obama in his prime.
Jacked up on roids. If you got Obama jacked up on roids like he never was, that's
but
what
with
we
the
saw
wisdom of a 800-year-old wizard.
Yes, the 800-year-old wizard. That's right. Look, I guess we're at the point, we've got to come clean, Charles. We need a break. I know we've barely been here lately, and we've been. It's because we've been really busy with all of our other work, because podcasting doesn't always pay the bills. We appreciate you listening. We appreciate you paying you $4 a month if you do via Apple Podcasts or Acast Plus. But what have you got on at the moment? You're super busy.
I've got a yet to be announced, super exciting project that I'm going into production of next week.
I mean, it either sounds very exciting in all sincerity, or it's an amazing long con.
That's right.
We'll find out soon.
Yeah, it's actually a bank robbery.
And I've had to have this whole other line of work where I'm doing academic stuff in order to, pay the bills, and also because it's quite interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm going to a conference next week, so I will be away. So
what we're going to do is we've asked Chris Taylor and Andrew Hansen to take over the feed.
Yes, we have.
Now, we're about to go and have lunch with them.
This is going to be a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Will they arrive on Tuesday or not?
We don't know whether we're going to seal the deal or not.
Yeah. One of the questions was, how does the podcast equipment work?
Yeah, I think the main jeopardy on this whole thing is, will Chris be able to press the go button?
Yeah, the very clearly marked record button on the device.
On the device.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so,
he worked at Triple J as a drive presenter for 2 years.
Craig used to do all the paneling, didn't he?
No, Chris did. I don't know
Chris?
Yeah. I don't know how he did that.
Oh, come on.
Apparently he doesn't know how to record an interview.
I think you'll be hearing Chris and Andrew tomorrow.
I hope so.
But if not, I don't know, you won't hear anything for a week.
Either that or we'll put in some sort of half-assed bullshit.
But I think after that, I'm going to be away actually for the next couple of months, really. But it's all very exciting. I will end up in Edinburgh, actually.
If doing a show. So if you're in Edinburgh, go and see the Wankonomics. So he's very busy and very successful, blah, blah, blah. But I will be here.
You'll be here, and it'll be basically a mix of Andrew and Chris.
And whoever else is around.
And whoever else
We'll get
is around.
a few favourites around. We might even get Charles for the occasional cameo when he's got to spare 5 minutes or something.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't know. I think I'm going to be like Hal in Henry V, where I don't even glance at my friends once I ascend the throne.
I see. All right. So
that's my plan.
The great
I want to
news
just tread on people on my way up.
We've left it on a classic episode, really, of just brilliant analysis.
Yes,
very satirical,
I know.
Cutting edge.
Yes.
Clearly
People
did the
look
work,
back at
did the
this
research.
episode.
This
and
was
go,
the apex.
Yeah.
Episode 902 or something.
Yeah.
If you got this far, email podcast@chaser.com.au and wish Charles all the best with his secret project and travels.
Thank you.
We'll catch you sometime on the feed soon. But we're not ending it. You're coming back, aren't you? Eventually?
Yeah, I'll come back in September.
I mean, if he's successful enough not to come back, you'll know.
Oh, you'll definitely know. I'll make sure. I'll come onto the podcast to tell you all about it.
We'll do one insufferable episode. All right. Thanks for listening. Catch you later.
Our gear is from Road. We're part of the Iconoclast Network. Catch you later.